Well, hey, welcome back everyone for another week of Tai Chi. Hello to all my regulars. If anybody's new, welcome. Sorry, no cats. The cats, it's just too hot over here. Cats don't want to come over. I like it just fine. But welcome to everyone. We'll get right into it. I promise you every week this is not a COVID diary. We won't talk about COVID, but the governor just extended the shutdown of gyms for another 2 weeks, so that will be into mid-August. So that puts a damper on classes here unless nobody says anything. So we'll see. I mean, it depends on how you even define a class. So maybe we'll work something out. But I didn't just say that, and you didn't just hear it. But anyway, so we're loosening up. So this is wrapping the pole. This is more circular. And then we know that Huang Jingjiang developed a series of loosening exercises where instead of that circular, there's more of a linear movement. And I think I was saying last week or the week before, I try to bring you different stuff, but there is stuff that's good to keep the same every week. And the reason is it allows you to judge how you're feeling that week, right? So if these loosening exercises, if I don't feel loose, then that's good. That's a good clue, right? And remember, like, my back is still maybe it's about 95% good, but I can feel that I'm not as loose and flowing as I normally am, which is not that loose anyway, but do the best I can. So if you didn't read the description of the video, the theme this week is going to be snakes. And before we even get started, okay, let's do some shoulder rolls. Instead of waiting till the end of our session to give you our proverb or our quote, I'm going to give you one in the beginning of class that involves snakes. Let's go around the other way. Because it will help us in our practice today, and that is an ancient, I think, unattributed proverb from China that says, don't add legs to a snake. Don't add legs to a snake. It's actually don't add legs to a snake after you finish drawing. So they're referring to drawing a snake. But what it means, did we go both ways? Let's do each one individually. How it relates to our practice is that I don't want to do things that are super duper complicated unless it's for a real reason, right? So some of the movements, so I'm going to show you some real simple movements today, and we don't need to make them a lot more complicated. I rejected a bunch of movements involving snakes and serpents because they're just, I mean, you may as well learn a whole form, you know, and or there's little flourishes that don't add anything to the movement. So I like to keep things simple as much as possible. I mean, we do want to challenge ourselves, but there are some movements that are just better left simple. And I'll explain to you what I'm talking about. So let's, just for fun, we used to do this all the time. Let's go one shoulder forward, one shoulder backward. If you're new, why am I wearing gloves? It's not cold in here. The right hand is always the orange hand, and left hand is the yellow hand. Let's go around the other way. And in most of the movements we're doing today, at least the first half, our Qigong movements, it won't matter. Okay, so you can don't worry about getting confused, and because they can all be done mirror image, or I can describe them in an ambidextrous way. And then our form, it makes more of a difference. But I'll keep the gloves on right now anyway, just for the heck of it. Okay, so then let's, so the counter rotation can bring tension back because it's confusing. So let's go back to another Wang Xingjiang loosening exercise. This is number 3, where it's more shoulder rolls, but the arms just can move freely now. And you can tell if you're not loose, you're not going to get this kind of really. My arms aren't going crazy; they're staying, in the same area. Okay. All right. Good. Good enough. Good enough. Let's do a little bit of neck, and then we'll move on. If you guys were to communicate with me and say that you were all going to do your warm-ups before you watch the video, then we can skip our warm-ups. But until I know that for sure, we have to do our warm-ups. Let's look side to side. So in a perfect world, I've said this before I go to a seminar, for instance, with any of the teachers that I study with, I really feel like I should, take a nap, meditate, and loosen up and stretching first before I even go to do any serious practicing. Let's look straight forward. But I rarely do that. I mean, it's one of those things which I wish I would do, but I don't. But I mean, then your mind would be open for learning, and your body would be prepared to do as much as it could. But that's, like I say, that's in a perfect world. And we don't even know if Master Yan's going to come out. I mean, he won't come out until COVID's over. So, all right, and then massage the neck and shoulders. Maybe sometime somebody will tell me about if we can get more specific, if there's some pressure points from traditional Chinese medicine that we could do. So I'm going to have a sip of water because it's hot in here. You guys drink freely. Other good news is it finally rained, and the dojo roof we didn't flood. We leaked, but we didn't flood. So let's see. So again, do not add legs to a snake. Some people say don't add feet to a snake. From Bagua, we have our snake arms, and this is so simple yet so profound. Okay, so I'm getting the spirit of the movement is this front to back movement. Even though I'm sort of oblique here, don't even worry about the weighting. Is your weight forward or back? Don't even worry about that right now. It's what we're doing is we're pivoting on this center line, which is actually not in the front of your body. It's just behind the spine, and that's creating this front to back. But it's a little circular too. It's not straight front to back. It's circular, so that's why they call it snake arms. And it's so relaxing. And this has a lot of the elements of silk reeling. I'm going to do it nice and slow, as if it was silk reeling. Okay, and the best silk reeling always has, within the same movement, it has some pushing and pulling. So you get both. So I feel pulling of the orange hand back and the yellow hand forward, yellow hand back, orange hand forward. So if we were here together, you could grab my hand here, and I would be pulling not from here, I'd be pulling from back here somewhere in my legs, right? And I think I may have said mistakenly last week, I was saying you don't want your mind in your hands. If somebody grabs your hand, you don't want to think about your hand. It's very weak, right? If I wanted to try to get my hand back, I mean, there's a bunch of tricks, but if I was just going to use brute force, I would use these large muscles, But I may have said last week that I'd have my mind here. My mind wouldn't be in my legs. If I wanted to bring my hand back, my mind would be back, way back behind it. It wouldn't even be necessarily anywhere in my body. It might be in my shoulder if it was, or way behind me. And that way my hand would come back as a byproduct of my mind going back, right? So, and if this sounds, then we'll go to the other side and change directions too. So if this sounds very woo-woo, it's really not. It's if you were trying to push a car out of a ditch, but you were thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner, your car would not budge, right? And if somebody was helping you, they'd be really angry at you. Your mind, your intention has to be not only on the task, but your mind has to be successfully completing the task. It can't be stuck inside the task. So if you're pushing your car out of a ditch, you don't think about your hands on the trunk of the car. You think about your car moving out of the ditch and then the large muscle groups of your body just take over. If you have to cue anything, you would cue these large muscles, right? You wouldn't cue your hands, right? But if you really think convincingly, your body should know what to do, right? And then the reason why we're so particular about structure, with the good structure, the large force from here can come through your body without buckling or bending back or hurting anything. That's why the good structure is important, right? That's why, and when we talk about little particulars in the form, if that's usually teaching you good structure. It's not arbitrary things about our form, right? So that was about Gua Snake Arms. And then we'll do from the Yang family coiling set, we'll do large python turns its body. And we used to do this all the time. And this is a great one. We would use this to teach pivoting and to teach coiling. Before I start going from side to side, let me just show you. This front hand's going to be palm out. Well, actually, both hands are going to be palm out. And if you saw it from above, it would form an S, a really nice curvy S curve, right? And so if you can't see that when we're going side to side, that's what it's going to look like when we're over here. And don't confuse this movement with the one where we look back at our hand. That's a dragon movement, right? When we're looking back at our hand, this hand's going to be tucked back here, so we won't be able to see it. And so I'll just get right into it. We might start holding a ball, but we're going to come back to here. You can look at your hand, or you can turn and look in the direction your hand is pointing. It doesn't make that much difference at all. Switch. I mean, it makes a little difference, but don't worry about your neck. I mean, don't worry about cranking your neck. So just, you could turn a little bit. Okay. So maybe it's time for another discussion. When it comes to movement, we know that the movement originates from the waist or the dantian. But some people say when it comes to what leads the chi, some people say the hands lead the chi, other people say the eyes lead the chi. So if I'm twisting this way but looking forward, then the eyes can't be leading the chi. But if the hands lead the chi, I can look in any direction, but I'm still making this coiling, twisting S curve, and it's still really good. And you should feel a lot of beautiful twisting and turning and pulling through the fascia. How about one more to each side? So here But I'm not saying that the eyes don't lead the chi. Far from it. I mean, but like I say, there's more than one theory. And it may depend on the movement. It really might depend on the movement. Okay, great. So those are both pretty simple movements, right? Now we'll get into a little harder movements. Let me see if I can break this down for you. This is Gua Snake movement number 3. And we'll take it as easy as we can. Okay, so if I turn to one side. Okay, so if I turn to this side, okay, this leg is closer to you. Hope you can see that. This leg is further away from you. So this hand is on the same side. These are both on the same side of my body. And then this hand and this leg are on the same side. This is my right hand, my right leg. This is my left hand, my left leg. I don't want to confuse you guys, okay? And then I'm trying to make this easy. Okay, so then the left arm is relatively straight and the left leg is bent. So straight arm, bent leg, bent arm, straight leg. Okay, same side of the body, bent arm, straight leg, same side of the body, straight arm, bent leg. So this is not really the movement, but we can let's switch this and see if we got it. Oh, look at that. Straight arm, bent arm, straight leg. Okay, this palm happens to be up, this palm happens to be down. So basically everything is going to switch on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and switch everything. Straight arm, bent leg, bent arm, straight leg, palm down, palm up. So go back and forth. Okay, let's just go back and forth a couple times, and then that will kind of, and I'll add a little bit more movement. So one thing I see a lot in these snake movements is this overextension. Technically, we're not supposed to extend the knee over sort of the center of the foot or even the heel, right? So my femur is vertical. I can always see my toes, but some people really torque it. If you want to, what I would suggest, if you feel like you want to lunge forward, instead of lunging, bending here, I would take a longer stance, right? So, okay. If you're really into it, right? Okay. So, if this movement could really be this easy, you expect it to be this easy? No! It gets better. Okay, one more time to each side, just so you get the straight arm, bent leg, bent arm, straight leg. So, how are we going to get to the other side? Because everything in Bagua is difficult, okay, but it feels really good. Honestly, you guys, I wouldn't do this if it didn't feel really good. Okay, watch this. This is how we're going to do this. Okay, oh, we're going to go down, really? So, look, straight arm becomes bent arm becomes straight arm, and then we're going to pivot and come up. Oh, how cool. How cool is that? And there's circling and coiling in there too. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Pause here, look back. And then this hand, sort of the orange hand's kind of wrapping around, coiling and twisting. Comes up to here. Stay with me, we can do this. You don't have to come down very far at all for this to really work. Oh, it feels so great. Remember to pivot your feet properly. This is excellent. It's not as hard as it looks, is it? No. See, I'm not coming down very far. The other thing that the qualities of the snake, which how long was I going to wait till I told you the qualities of the snake? The snake in Eastern philosophy is not evil, so don't worry about it. It could be a little sly. Okay, Chen Yanling describes the snake movement in our form as being sly and sneaky, but that's not evil. And but it's very low to the ground. So I only selected movements that were reasonable. There were movements that were much lower to the ground than this, required insane leg strength. One more? Okay, one more. I mean, insane leg and core strength. And that is one of the benefits of lifelong Tai Chi practice, starting at a young age. Tremendously strong legs you build. But if you start it later in life, I could never catch up to that, and it's not really one of my goals. So speaking of our form, let's review 36A. And I don't expect anybody to remember this. When we learned it, it was years ago. We call it the Artful Snake Creeps Down, and they call it just the snake, or the snake creeps down in the Yang and the Wu style. And usually it starts, and we're just doing this for fun as an exercise. So you don't have to memorize this, right? Because it's too far into our form to expect you to memorize it. This is just for exercise, just to feel the movements in your body. So in the 108 form that we don't do, it starts out in single, I think we're in single whip, if I'm not mistaken. And this beak hand comes over and hooks something. And then this is very important. I'm only telling you the important parts. That foot pivots out and you shift into it. In fact, you can step it back and then shift into it. And then this comes out, back out to here. So this body should be acting as a unit. This comes down, this goes up. Okay? So as I was saying with the insane leg strength, a lot of people can sit on this heel without dropping down, or they lower themselves onto that heel and they can come up off that heel just as easily. But we're just going to shift our weight this way. So this knee's going to bend, this knee's going to be straight. This hand comes up, this hand goes down. And then in most forms, don't do this. It goes right to sweep lotus kick. So let's do that on the other side. Since we're doing it as an exercise, we're going to do it on both sides. People that are doing it just to memorize their form, they only have to do it on one side, and then maybe years later, they'll do it on the other. So where were we? So we would start in our single whip. This leg's a little bent, this leg's a little straight. My weight's a little bit forward, but not super forward. And then I'm holding this hand, sort of blading the heel of the hand forward. That's just our good generic single whip. And then, so then let's see, this hand would start to reach out, this comes over. And I'm going to step that left foot back, and then the toes are going to pivot away from me, come back to here, something like that, right? It varies from the Yang style to the Wu style. Okay, so then I'm going to shift forward, and then this is a whole body movement. So that's a whole body movement. If you want, here it's going to come up to there. So, whew, it's hot in here, you guys. So that's the generic 108 form snake. So ours, now I'll tell you ours, okay? So the 108 goes from single whip to lotus kick. Ours goes after a lotus kick to strike a tiger. And what's going on here? This is so cool. So So I do a strike a tiger, a sweep lotus kick like this, and I end up like this. So if you want to do this, this could be our balance for today. So this happens to be my right hand and my right foot. And then I'm attacked by diagonal flying, right? But I'm holding my partner's hand here, or I've hooked their hand, right? Because we're not doing a lot of grasping, right? So what I do is I step back and I drag them back down into me. You wouldn't really come this far, right? This would be for flourish. But then, so let's say I just came down to here. And in like Kung Fu and Wudang, it's here. So, and even in the Chen Yanling sketches, I think he's more like this. Anyway, so. And then I come up, and that's a strike to the crotch, right? He calls it a sneaky hand. This recent translation from the Chinese is sneaky hand, right? And and then instead of doing that lotus kick, I can't stay down here forever. I'm very vulnerable. I have to get up, so I pop up and strike a tiger left. So let's do that one more time. So remember, this starts with our balance. So I did the sweep lotus kick. So let's just have your leg as straight as possible. Imagine you're holding your partner, or maybe your partner's holding you. It's usually, if they try to hold us, we usually make them pay for that, right? So if they're grabbing me, then I would in turn grab them and then drop back and then boom, right? And then step up, strike a tiger. Okay? We could do that 5 times, but let's try it on the other side. And you guys can rewind it if you want. Again, there's no quiz on this. I don't want you to memorize this. I just want you to move your body and just feel it. Every move feels differently. And remember, there are people that have broken down the form and treated every move as a piece of Qigong. And they can even tell you what each movement is good for. Maybe this movement's good for the kidneys. You know, I have no idea, right? But it's similar to like a deck of playing cards. It looks like nothing, but there are people who can use a plain deck of playing cards just like a deck of tarot cards, right? There's symbolism in everything, right? So where were we? Let's see. So it would be the left hand. Okay, so on this side, it's the left foot forward and the left hand. We get attacked here. Maybe they're grabbing us, so we grab them, right? And then I'm not going to say fall back, but you're going to shift back, point your toes away from you, and then that allows, pointing your toes away from you allows you to sink down without sticking your hips out, right? So I sink down as straight down as I can, not for long, and then I'm going to come forward and up, but I can't stay here either. I'm going to grab my partner, step around him, bam, strike a tiger. Okay, one more time. Left foot up. Or you're just doing the reverse of what you were doing before. So for me, it's my left hand and my left foot. So they attacked me. Everything was going fine. They made the mistake of attacking me. And so I'm going to step that back. And then, so I dragged them into me. And then, boom. And then if there was any doubt that that was a crotch strike, I saw another movement or another system where they called that white ape snatches treasure. So that's very descriptive too. White ape snatches treasure. We don't call it that. Ours is more tactful, I guess. So look at this, I'm already taking my break and I didn't even invite you to take a break. So we'll take a little break and then we'll do just the first 8 movements. And that's the part where you can pay attention and maybe memorize if you want. The other thing is, while we're taking our break, remember our new system, maybe you guys will just pause it. Some of you will pause it and you'll do the first 8 movements of your form, thinking of sticking points or blank areas that need filling in, or parts that you just can't remember at all. And then when we do our form, you'll watch very carefully through those parts, because you can't ask me, we can't interact. So it's what I've said before, you're stealing the form from me. You're taking what you need, right? Without me even offering it specifically, right? And it's just little things. It's like, is his weight forward or is his weight back? Which hand is which? Is that his left foot forward or his left foot back? Is he turning to the right or turning to the left? Is he shifting left or shifting right? This is all, I don't mean to oversimplify, but most of the movements you can rough them out in that way. And it seems like an oversimplification, but really that's basically what you do. And then all the chi, if you have your proper structure, the chi will flow through your body and it will allow these great things to happen. But it starts with just real basic movements. So anyway, little break and we'll come right back. Okay, so we're back. So we're going to do our form, but before we do our form, we need to review a snake movement from our form that you can actually memorize, but the only problem is we don't have anyone that I can demonstrate with. So we'll just have to do it as a solo movement, but that's good enough for most people, so that's fine. It's the very first movement of the form. It's white snake darts out its tongue, or white snake spits out its tongue. And so if you've never occurred to you, so we start our form, so we step up and we come up to here and then we go through to there. So it may never occur to you that this upward movement, that's the snake opening its mouth, and then this is its tongue coming out, right? And we normally do it as a punch, but part of that snake energy, or the essence of the snake, is a lot of times, everything we've done so far today has been an open hand with fingers forward, right? So you could totally do that, right? And that helps you get through. If there's a bunch of arms and stuff in your way, it helps you get through. So in this particular case, we don't have to worry about it. But if you did do it with your fingers, then it's not really going to be a strike to here anymore. It'd be better up towards the face, right, or the eyes. So if we wanted to do that, then we'd come up. So, and again, this is sort of a back of the wrist. So the idea behind this, and again, I'm not teaching a lot of applications because there's no one to demonstrate it with, but we step up, left foot up, my weight's still back, this comes up, and this could be a strike to my partner's chin, or just checking the range. See if I can, you kind of, a lot of times you want to just touch your partner, even in boxing or something like this, just to see if your range, and so like the jab, for instance, is a range finder. It's not meant to knock them out, right? It's just to know if you're in range, and then you can come through. You know instinctively where they are then. Even if they're moving around, it gets you in that range. So we come through, right? And so if we wanted to do it again with the fingers upward, so we would, come to here, and then it would be more like that. And I almost like that because there's more spiraling. So if you don't know, if it's an imaginary partner, just make it somebody your own size, right? So at the height of your own eyes, right? So let's try that again. let's try it from a different angle. Same exact thing, different angle. So sink, step up, that comes up, and then this would come through. And as we've mentioned a million times, but just in case, so it's the pulling back is what really drives this through, right? Or that's what makes it into a really good feeling whole body movement, right? If you do it just as an arm movement, it's going to have no power at all. So, and then it's all one movement, right? And then the beauty of the pulling back is you don't overextend, because you're really at risk of overextending here, right? But the pulling back keeps you in your own center, right? And I'll have to look at the video to see if even if I overextended, but it's always tempting, right? Because it just feels good, but it's not good. So anyway, so that's the basis of that movement. And then we know our partner, it just doesn't make sense if we do it without a partner, but just so we know. So in that first initial step, our partner steps back to here, and then when you come through, they come back to dragon pose. And so your little strike, they come around and catch it. So, and as we've mentioned before, why don't they just slap it away? Why do they come around and catch it? It's an entwining movement. Tai Chi is full of entwining movements. If you were to persist, they could grab you and pull you down, right? Maybe even stepping around, doing something like that. So, I mean, that's just a basic interpretation. But that's why we're not just, and you could slap it away or do an up and down block or something, but in our encyclopedia of movements, we are first we get out of the way, and then we come back to there. So that's what that is. So let's go ahead and do our form. As I promised, try to give you a new angle every week. Sometimes it'll work for you, other weeks it won't. So this is radical. I'm going to face away from you. For me, that feels radical, but for you, that should feel fine, because normally when you're standing behind me, this is the view that you get. It's just it seems disrespectful or turn my back on you as far as the camera's concerned. Anyways, no big deal. Here we go. Off we go. So this is the A side, you guys. Remember, orange is my right hand, left is my left hand. Okay, off we go. Sink. Step the left foot up. Left hand goes up. Some of you are not watching and you're just listening for clues. I slide the right foot through. And maybe let's do this finger strike here. Ooh, I love it. I love it. And then maybe that will be a permanent change. Who knows? I'm doing, you can't see through me now. I'm doing 7 stars. Okay. And then a half step up so my feet are even again. I step the right foot up and do carry hammer. That's a punch if there ever was one. And then I shift back into my left foot, hold the ball. This is our white crane. And then the right hand replaces the left. The right foot is way pivoted. And then white ape swings through branches. So my weight is shifted left. I'm going to shift my weight back right, lower my arms. It doesn't matter because my partner's behind me right now. I step up and to the right with my right foot. I shift right. I shift back left. Elbow strikes the heart. I shift back right. Ring the gong. I shift left and strike a tiger. And then I'm going to step up to the corner as always. Doesn't matter which direction I face. I step to the corner for strum de loot. I sink back into my left hand. The arms come down in front of me. Doesn't really matter too much what your arms do here. And then I'm going to come around to inspect horse's mouth. And then a half step back with the right foot. The arms are entwining again here. And then a half step back with the left foot coming out into dragon pose. So that was what that was, remember? Okay, and then if you're hungry for more balances, check, make sure all your weight is on your left foot. See if you can do a little kick here. Excellent. Great. Okay. All right. So again, getting back to our first proverb, not adding legs onto a snake. I'm keeping the instructions very simple, you know. Okay. Let's do the B side. And then what about if I face away from you for the B side too? Okay, I'll do that. And if I don't walk myself into a corner, we'll continue on. We'll flip back over to the A, okay? So I don't know where I'm going to end up here. Okay, so sink into your left foot. The right foot goes back. Shift your weight back into that foot. The heel goes down and you just naturally turn to the right. Turning the waist back to the left. That's what pulls the left foot back, and that's what brings the arms up into dragon pose. We continue on into single whip. That beak hand forms. The left hand, it circles in, circles back out. The right fingers come forward, palm facing down, unlike our snake hand. And then we step around and strike a tiger. Keep twisting left, and that will pull your left foot in and back. It'll pull the right hand back and down. And now we're going to head forward again. So shift forward. Hand goes forward and up, clearing way for you to step in with another shoulder strike. So I get my arm out of the way, but you'd still hang on to this, right, if you had a partner here. But I come into here into a classic shoulder strike usually. Shift back, hoop shape, left hand on top, pivot the right foot around, step in and back, draw the bucket from the well. This is weird because you guys can't see me, but whatever. You saw me last week. Shift back, hands up in front of you, left palm up, right palm down. Pivot the right toes around, step the left foot in and back, downward push, and then roll that left palm under in space. It's actually rolling under your partner's elbow. Nudge their elbow up and boom, white snake darts out its tongue. Yeah, let's keep going. To 7 stars. Go a little faster, less instruction. Go through to carry hammer. Sink back into white crane, and then white ape swings through branches. Okay, shift back right, pivot around, shift right, shift left, elbow strikes the heart, shift back right, ring the gong, shift left and strike a tiger, and then strum the lute. Inspect horse's mouth. Okay, and then back to dragon pose. Okay, little kick. And then just since we've done dragon pose on this side twice already, since it's such a nice opening movement, let's do it on the other side just for fun. It's not part of our form. Okay, you can lower your arms and step the right foot in and back, and then shift your weight back into your right foot, and the arms come up on your right side of your body. Oh, it feels really good. If there's any movement in your form that you like or you're practicing, try it on the other side. It's good to get in the habit of that now. Because if you wait for years, it'll feel so foreign to you. So if you're not practicing your form, we still have stepping that you can do. Because I don't want you to just do Qigong and your legs will atrophy and waste away. And you won't improve your balance that much. So let's do our circle walking. We will do the Serpent Step from Bagua, but I really wish I could show you how the Serpent Step works in push hands. It works in 2 major ways. And the Serpent Step, again, is instead of setting the foot down on the heel and then transferring your weight into that foot, it's either stepping the foot with the toes, leading with the toes, or either it's the whole foot or just the ball of the foot. And you can step it or slide it. There's a lot of variation in Bagua. The old school Bagua, they slid the feet. And you're not only doing that, but you're not driving so much off the back leg anymore. Now you're gripping the floor with those toes and pulling yourself forward, right? So in push hands, and I wish I could just call Ralph over to demonstrate this, you expect me to push off from my back leg. And so you're going to come underneath me when you feel that happen. You're going to come underneath me, and there's very little I can do. It doesn't matter how well I can root. I'm already rooted. There is no perfect strategy or movement in Tai Chi. There's a counter for everything. So once you've learned, rooting is great, and once you've learned your great root, then you'll learn how to defeat it, right? Many ways to defeat it. But if you expect me to be pushing up off this leg, it's so cool for me to pull. So if you try to defeat my root, so I can switch to pulling forward, and it'll change my energy. I wish I could show you, or I wish you could experience it. I can show it to you with some video, but you can't experience it. It's completely different when somebody pulls themselves forward. Another application of that serpent step would be if I was standing not so far front and back, and you pushed into me, and I felt like I was being uprooted, I can just point this toe and just slide forward. So that sinks me down, and it also brings me forward, right? So I'm not only am I lowering my center of gravity and getting under your attempt to get under me, I'm actually, the act of bringing this foot forward is shifting my weight forward, right? So it can work. It's a neat trick. I did that on both sides on this leg. So again, sometimes we do these things not because I want you to perfect them. It's just to move our body and just as an exercise. So feel that. So switch feet and sink into this leg and allow this leg to just whoop. So this would be right between your partner's legs, right? That's because that's their center, right? So they would begin to push on you, and instead of pushing back, you would just slide in and back. So you kind of come down and forward. So it's a lot down and some forward. It's just a neat little technique. So let's get back to our circle walking. Do we need a pylon? Sure. Let's give ourselves a pylon to walk around. Give yourself something to walk around. But you're starting to work on that sense of knowledge of shapes in space, right? And this is good for your imagination. You can start to imagine exactly how things are that aren't even there, right? And how they would be positioned. So for our serpent step, just for fun, let's do a yin palm. This is more like a snake-like palm. So normally this palm's out and this palm's down. Let's go this palm in and this palm up. Just as effective. So a palm down block is just as effective as a palm up block is as effective, if not more effective than down, right? But they're both good. And so it's everything, it's normal, just like we normally do, except for, well, it's not like what we normally do at all. What am I talking about? The foot goes forward, grip, even if you're wearing shoes, grip that mat, and then pull yourself forward. And then I prefer sliding the foot, right? So slide that foot around, turning it just ever so slightly, you guys, because it is a circle. Don't forget it's a circle. And then grip the floor, pull yourself forward. Okay, this is great. I love this. Very meditative, really good for your legs, you guys. So it's getting pretty hot. I mean, if you miss your morning walk, you can't go out. I mean, you shouldn't go out probably if you miss your morning walk, if it gets too hot. And then, I'm falling over. And then, what happens if you have your walk scheduled and it rains, right? You should really do this. All right, so where did I start? I think I started over. Whoa, I'm a little tippy today. Okay, and I need to pay more attention. I really should be focused on the center of the circle. And, okay. I let my focus go because I don't want, I want to model good movement for you, but I don't want it to be super perfect. Okay. So if you guys are falling over, I want to fall over a little bit too. Okay, and maybe my steps aren't completely certain. This is a seeking step. This step does not know if everything is going to be okay. I mean, part of the reason that you're leading there is you could do this in total darkness. You're not shooting that foot forward so fast that you'd stub your toe. If you came across an obstacle, so it's not quite as good as our other steps where you could step over stuff, but I mean, if I came across an obstacle here, oh, okay, so then I'd go around it, right? Oops. So there is, if you really want to get into this stuff, you can coordinate your breathing with this. I believe the Serpent Step is inhale, pull yourself forward, exhale, step the foot up. Inhale, pull yourself forward, exhale, step the foot up. Inhale, pull yourself in, exhale, step out. Okay, I'm not going to do this forever because you can pause the video, do it as much as you want, or instead of doing a marathon, do it a few times a day. So let's end with lifting water, Qigong. And again, just so we know, the reason why we do I like variety, but we do a few things the same every week as a yardstick, as a measure to how we feel, right? So it's really interesting. Because especially when we do these themes, every animal, for instance, has a different energy, right? So I wouldn't be surprised at all if your arms feel very snake-like, really smooth now, not separate from your body at all, very light. Next time your arms come down, just stand and meditate, please. Okay, we stay meditating, please. We've got a great quote today. Okay. This one is another one from Zhuang Zhou, about 300 BC. This is excellent. This mentions a snake. The one-legged creature is envious of the centipede. The centipede is envious of the snake. The snake is envious of the wind. The wind is envious of the eye, and the eye is envious of the heart. And that will be in the video description if you didn't hear what I said of any part of it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate practicing with you. I can feel you out there somewhere, and I appreciate your support. Your support is enabling us to continue to be able to use the dojo. And thank you very, very much.